Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The means of knowledge that are available to this person, to this individual, which we discussed yesterday at length, are enough to know this world of objects, are adequate to conduct empirical transactions, vyavahara, on the level of give, take, and on the level of the day-to-day engagements. It's more than adequate. I see, Mula Pramana, Pratyaksha Pramana, I see, I hear, and then the indirect Pramanas, I infer, sometimes wrongly, but I have the capacity to infer and to correct that wrong inference. And I have the capacity to put forth hypotheses, which the scientists do all the time. And then they have the intellectual honesty to either look at this and say, okay, this is correct, this hypothesis is correct, or I have to change the hypothesis. I cannot flub and say, change the conditions of the experiment in order to fulfill the hypothesis. That is not science. So these means of knowledge are these kinds of means of knowledge, these 5 that we discussed, while they are more than adequate to conduct transactions in the empirical world of affairs, of day-to-day, daily affairs, they fall short for knowing the truth of the subject. For objects it's good enough, but for the subject we need something special. Why? Because these means of knowledge are the ones used by the subject to objectify various objects. This is flower, this is pot, this is cat, this is dog, this is what, who is the one in place? The one in place is this, the subject who is indisputably in charge. Indisputably in charge. I am the one naming, doing namakarana for all these things. And there is a power in naming. That's why, people want to choose names for everything. They name their cars. Even in India it's the same thing. And then they name their plants. Cats, dogs, children, of course. But they name the plants. They name the cars. And then they name the computer. They name their iPad. And then you can even have the name engraved on it. This is a grave matter. And in India, they also, nowadays probably nobody even knows this, but a couple of decades earlier, they used to have everything used to be ground with this grinding stone, all the masalas. And in the south, you go like this, in the north, you go like this. Cultural difference. In the north, it's a flat stone with like another stone which is more like a rolling pin. And, you grind. And in the south, it's like a depression, and then a stone to fit in that depression. And then you take the head of that stone and you grind. So they would name even the grinding stone. Why? Because there is a certain power. Because these objects, I have a relationship with these objects. And of course we name Bhagavan also. Yeah. We like to name our Bhagavans. Like everything is Shiva. You know, there are so many temples of Shiva. Someshwara in Gujarat and Somanatha. Omkareshwara in Nasik. Kala Bhairava somewhere else. You know, there are so many names for this one Shiva. All named by human beings. And there is something which is interesting, you know. In this act of naming, there is an expression of power, an expression of feeling in charge, being in charge of this world of objects. The naming defines my power in relation to those things that have been named. It defines that relationship of power. That's why it's very comforting. Yes, we'll name each and every thing here. We'll name the cushion, we'll name the couch, we'll name, everything. And the namer feels very good. This is why the colonizers, when they came to India, they changed the name of everything. Yeah. All the roads were named after themselves. And all the towns, they couldn't say Mumbai. I mean, how? I mean, come on. It's not that hard. We are not talking of Thiruvananthapuram. Okay, fine, I can understand that. or Thrissur, or Tiruchinappalli. Okay, fine, I can understand all that is a little difficult on the tongue. But Mumbai? Can you say Mumbai?
Mumbai.
What's the difference? It is named after a goddess, Mumba Devi. No, it had to become Bombay. Not because they couldn't say it. They didn't want to say it, because this is again a relationship of power. I go to somebody else's country uninvited and I choose the country carefully, the country that has a lot of hospitality. Atithi Devo Bhava. Colonizer Devo Bhava. And I go there and park myself and start naming everything. From sunrise to sunset, I keep naming. This is the expression of power. This is very clearly seen in this. It's not hard to say Mumbai. It's not hard to say Kolkata. It's not hard at all. But it's on purpose. I don't even want to try. When I can say Bombay and I can change the name, I can change the destiny of all these people. Their destiny is in the hands of our empire. That's the feeling. So the naming always puts the person in a place of power. And the naming cannot take place without the operation of the means of knowledge. If you don't know what it is, how are you going to name it, You have to have that relationship. So you see the name, the means of knowledge that we discussed yesterday is distinguished from the one that we are going to discuss in detail today by this specific, this one and only, feature. In the former, in the 5 means of knowledge, the subject as the knower and as the one in power is not displaced. In fact, it is buttressed to keep separate. All these means of knowledges, which are at the fingertips for me, keep me in a place of an ersatz pseudo feeling of power. Why is it pseudo? Because I depend on that power to feel secure, to feel powerful. Because even from the standpoint of the colonizer, you take away the colony, what is there? Yeah, just the setting sun on the British Empire. They said the sun never sets on the British Empire because it was a geographical trick, because it's there all over the place. Wherever you go, the sun is there. And if it sets in India, Africa is there. And if it sets in Africa, some other islands are there. So we are so proliferated. Shame on them. But we are so proliferated that we have conquered the entire universe, the whole planet. So really, the sun cannot dare to set. This is what the famous last words is, the pride always comes before a big fall. And so this kind of a hubris makes one a pauper, because you depend on that to gain security as a nation, as a culture, as a community, and of course as an individual. You become dependent on that. And then in our, understanding, we are trying to see that I, which is the source of everything, which is not dependent on anything. And here is where the mismatch is between these pramanas, which are so useful in keeping that knower unchallenged and in place. They are useless to know the content, the truth of this knower. They are useless. They bounce back all the means of knowledge and the sad little mind that operates them, along with the words that express themselves in power, hang their heads in shame, the words and the mind. And the pramanas hit the wall and bounce back. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha. Yataha, yasmat karanat, from which causeless cause, which is the truth of myself. These means of knowledge, unleashed by, operated by, given expression to by the mind and the words together. The means of knowledges, these means of knowledge boomerang back in tow with the mind and the words which operated them, and they hang their heads in shame. Did you find out who the I is? Do you know the I? No, the words say. And the words are very garrulous. They always, have something to say. And the words are very powerful too. Which words? The words that went along with the mind, which came out of the mind. The words go. They have nothing to say for a change. And the mind that is full of thoughts, just feels sad. Nothing has happened. I did not know this I. We must not come to the erroneous conclusion from this statement in the Taittiriya Upanishad that the self is unknowable. Why? Because these pramanas came back. Yeah, pramanas came back. They had the return postage affixed on them because they were to come back. It's a setup to always try to know the I with the wrong means. It's like trying to know the I with the 5 pramanas which I have at the tips of my hands, at my fingertips, is like using the ears to smell the flower. How ridiculous is that? If anybody keeps going like this all the time with the flower, you say, oh, something is lacking in the top story. There is a to let sign, The top story is for rent. Because it is full of rents in logic. Yes, rents means stairs. Some logic has fallen through. That's why it's out to be let. It's let out. It's not occupied, in other words. So if anybody tries to smell the flower using the eyes or the ears, you say, what's wrong with you? And yet, the same person who can see this non-connection between the sadhana, the means employed, and the sadhya, the goal to be achieved, to be accomplished, frequently misses the non-relationship between the means that the same person is deploying to know the I and the wrongness of those very means, because the I is not a to be accomplished fact, it is an accomplished fact. Oh, the I is accomplished? Yes. In what? In saying I am, I am, I am. Can you miss the I? No. You can miss everything around you. You cannot miss yourself. No, but I do manage that somehow. After all, it is Kali Yuga. I miss myself. The one who says I miss myself, what are they missing?
Knowledge of self.
Yeah, we are missing the fruit of the self-knowledge, which is a sense of connection to the already connected I. When I don't know, this alienation comes, this disconnection comes. And this disconnection takes various avatars of insecurity, fear, sorrow, self-doubt, questioning, hopelessness, self-lack, inadequacy, self-judgment, self-loath. These are the myriad avatars. This is why there is an urgency, or there should be an urgency to know who this I is. So these pramanas, which are wonderful to identify, name, and have a relationship of myness, me-ness, or some kind of belonging and power with regard to the objects, are useless when it comes to knowing the subject, which in a sense is already known. It's already known. That's why the hankering for happiness. Because otherwise, how would one know that that is where I have to reach? How does one know that this is my nature? How do you know that sadness and fear and insecurity are imposters? How did you dream it up? How do you know this? I know this because I have that sense that this is what this I is, because in sleep I experience it, and I experience it between two forceful desires. What is there? That contentment is there. Sometimes one is contented for no reason. No desires have been fulfilled. And you wake up in a magnanimous mood, ready to forgive even the meanest grudge and the longest held grudge. You say, "Theek hai, let it go. We'll look at it tomorrow. We'll hold it back on tomorrow. But today, I'm open-handed. I'll let everything go." So these are the one's own experiences reveal in a certain sense what one is striving after, which is not something to be accomplished. Here is the mistake. I think that contentedness, that contentment is coming from contact with the object. And so what do? Is I continue to deploy the 5 means of knowledge at my behest to keep contacting objects. And that is the mistake. What needs to be understood is my contact, my endless contact with the subject. That the content of that, the nature of that relationship has to be understood. This cannot happen without dethroning the status of the knower, that status of false power to which I have gotten very attached. This cannot happen. It has to be moved aside, because the knower in relation to the known, there is already a duality. Yes. A duality based on a false relationship of belonging, a false relationship of power, a false relationship of pelf, a false relationship of certain identifications, me, mine, etc. That has to go. And that is why the Veda is known as a pramana on its own. It is enough. It cannot help you smell the flower. Oh, that means the Veda falls short. Silly fellow to ask that question. You have a nose, don't you? Yeah, I suppose. But if Veda is this great pramana, is this great means of knowledge, it should help me smell the flower. First to smell the coffee, then we'll talk about other things. You get awake first. Ridiculous. I told you yesterday, each pramana is a king in its own area. And what it reveals should be anadhigata, arthavat, phalabodhakam. It should not be available to any means of knowledge. Otherwise it's not called a pramana. What it reveals should be meaningful. And what it reveals should have a purpose in the life of the person operating it or the one who is under its operation. This is the main thing. And so the Veda is a pramana. The whole Veda tells me things that I cannot know without what? Without it. The Veda is divided into two portions. One is called the karma portion, karma kanda. Kanda means portion. And then the second, that is huge. Karma means what? How to fulfill desires. That is the main thing, the main focus in the first portion of the Veda. So it deals with action, it deals with righteousness, which we've been talking about a lot. It deals with the need for this person to be in right relationship with one's resources, with each other, with one another, with the Mother Earth, with the elements, with the creator of all of the above. And the need to be in right relationship is emphasized. But at the same time, it's understood that the human being has desires. You cannot wish yourself not to have desires. What will happen then? Huh?
Another wish to get
That
desire.
becomes a desire. I want to drop all desires. I don't want desires. I don't want desires. Keeping on shaking the head like this, bull. There is one bull in India, that is got some predictive powers, supposedly. So this bull comes and it's all decorated. It's got bells and on its horns. It's got garlands, necklaces, a red silk cloth with embroidery, gold embroidery on its back. And it's got some little bells on its feet. And it came to the Vedanta ashram, where people don't want any fortune telling. So all the students are standing in a circle. The bull is and the bull it comes along with the man who manages it. I don't know what to call him. It's his show, really. So you cannot ask the bull, when is Jupiter going to go into Cancer? I mean, it's not going to carve, on the floor, on the earth, June 19th, 2014. It's not going to do that. It's a simple animal. You ask simple questions, yes, no, maybe. And if the question is not pertinent, it will just, kick up some dust in the ground. Just basic questions. And then, so all these people were standing in a circle. And the most mischievous student said, "Will I get moksha?" And the bull said, "No." The student said, "What? There's something wrong." And the student nudged the other person standing next to him who happened to be a very serious student, went to all classes and did not play hooky, was a very good brahmachari. And she asked, will I get moksha? No, first she was also joking. She said, will he get moksha? Will I get moksha? So you can't keep saying, I want to go away with, drop all the desires. You'll just be like this bull, like a bobblehead, always saying that I want to get rid of this, I want to get rid of this. That becomes a raga. That becomes a desire then you have to deal with. Desire is the creative expression of the Lord, of Bhagavan. It's not the desires that are the problem. It's how to manage them, what to do with them. More importantly, what not to do with them. This is what the whole thing is. And the first portion of the Veda, which is a means of knowledge, helps one to manage the desires by filtering them through this idea of dharma, what is correct, what is appropriate for me, and what is culturally, time-wise, space-wise appropriate. This is what it teaches. And even there, it's a means of knowledge because it reveals things that I do not know. It reveals means and ends. Sometimes unknown means and unknown ends. Like what? Heaven. Where is heaven? Swarga. I don't like to use the word heaven because it conjures up, illogical understandings of some place beyond time, beyond space, but it's a location. And then how can a location be beyond space? And then there is some formless being called God sitting in a location. How can the formless occupy space? And then we call it a he. That's why I say Swarga. Swarga is our concept of an eminently and unabashedly non-eternal heaven, where you go for a little holiday like a hotel and then you come back. Yeah, that's all. You come back. And you take the traveler's checks of good karma. You spend it there, and when the last traveler's check is over, oh, time to return. That's what it is. And then one finds oneself in a nursery filled with strange babies who are all yelling at the top of their lungs, practicing, breathing. And one is also one of the many babies in this nursery. And, one wonders what happened. Yes. Oh, I'm still nursing the discontent. That's why I'm here. And that's why it's called nursery, where everyone nurses the discontent that was not, that was not addressed in the last life. That's what it is. So, Swarga is unknown, correct? And then there is some ritual. What is the ritual? Nachiketa's fire. But there is also many other ways to go to Swarga, being dependent on karma. This one is called Swarga Kamaha Somena Yajeta. Use soma juice pressed from the freshly collected soma leaves as oblations for this fire. Where is soma juice? Where are soma leaves? Unknown. Unknown means. And of course now everything is, ghee is the replacement for everything. Not all of them are through ajya or ghee. Even ajya is not ghee. But we are great at substitutions. Some you have to feed the fire with dry coconut. So many things are there. And so therefore, even though substitutions are allowed, but really this is an unknown means. What is this soma? Where do you get it? It's extinct. And then unknown end. The end is also unknown. I don't know where is heaven. Having gone there, first of all, I don't know that I'm going to survive death, unknown. That there is a heaven, unknown. That I will go there, big unknown, because I could end up somewhere else. Because I don't whether I have enough travelers checks in the form of meritorious deeds, punya, unknown. And another big unknown, having gone there, I will like it, because I may meet some unsavory elements that I tried to get away from here and find that they are all there. That I will like it, another big unknown. Unknown means unknown end. That's why this Veda is a pramana. It reveals the connection. And it says that this is all based on something beyond logic. It's belief based. The first portion of the Veda is all based on a certain belief, a shraddha in the pramana. That this means of knowledge based on what? Words of this Veda, which tell me that if I put a bunch of bricks in this formation and light a fire and keep putting ghee and chanting the mantras it gives, that somehow my life is going to get better, either in the here or in the hereafter. This is just based on operating the words as pramana. But where is the proof? Did your life get better? Of course, with heaven there is no proof. Yeah, proof is later, and you don't come back to tell us about it. But what about, there is one very interesting ritual, Kariri. What is this Kariri? It's a special rain ritual. Yeah. Do not attempt it in Eugene if you don't want people to be mad at you. So one German, some kind of a scientist, forgot his name, he was very interested in the Vedas. Somehow Germans have this background. Huh? Yeah, I don't remember the name. He was very interested in this, Kariri. So he first went to a Pandit in Chennai, found out how to do it. And it's an expensive ritual, And it involves a lot of Varuna Japa. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, because I want you to still have friends while being in Eugene. Varuna is the deity of rain and water. And so, therefore, he learned how to do it. And what did he do? He went from place to place. He went to Cherrapunji in northeast India, in Assam, which is the rainiest drip place. Comes right next to Eugene. Maybe it's higher, more rain than Eugene. In fact, the whole of Eugene is like northeast India, very pleasant, very green, beautiful. So then he went there to the place where there's only one day in the whole year. 364 days it rains. 365th day, whichever day that is, they know. The astrologers know and the meteorologists sometimes know. And so he found that one day and then did the ritual there. And it rained, and him and his set of researchers were stoned out of town. He was not very popular. No, I'm making that part up. I'm just imagining. They must have thrown anything that they had in hand, because he comes to town and spoils the only good day that they have. I'm sure he was not invited back to conduct his research. Then he went to Rajasthan, where is this desert, And then he did it there on June 21st. It had not rained on that day ever in the recorded history. On the highest day of summer. They could barely sit there and do it. It was so hot. And when they had almost given up everything, one small cloud gathered and rained just where they were doing the yajna. How? Nobody knows. This is the beauty of pramana. It works. And then there is another, this is what? Known means you know what to do. Known ends, that you want rain. But again, the means are unknown. How this is connected to that, nobody knows. And he also gave up after doing it. He said, all we know about Kariri, he wrote in his final paper, research paper, is that it works. By God, it works. And he wanted to operate the pramana properly. He was not trying to just flub things, and he did it properly, and it worked. And there is another ritual given by the first portion of the Veda, and it is called Putra Kameshti. It is how Lord Rama and his brothers were born. It is for people who are childless and would like to have a child. It's that brings its own sadness, not having a child. There's nobody I can teach, what I know. There's nobody to call mine. There's no legacy I can leave after me. Some people have that sadness. Not everybody. And then, for such people there is a upaya, there is a remedy for childlessness. It's a very expensive ritual, because the Veda wants to make sure that if you are going to, have children, you're going to be able to afford them. Very expensive ritual. And there was a couple that was married in Chennai for I think 20 years or something, no children. And they both had all kinds of tests and everything. And the doctors said no possibility. They had done all kinds of operations, this, that, they tried artificial insemination, nothing. 15 or 20 years they were married. They took Swamiji's blessings, I think, and did this Putra Kameshti. They had 3 children after this in 4 years. How? Nobody knows. One pair of twins, and then 2 other children, 1 other child they had in the space of 3 or 4 years. How? Nobody knows. Known end, I want a child. Again the means are unknown. Sometimes known means and then known ends. I want to, get a job, for example. So I try. It's not that you just are dependent on rituals. You have to try. So you do this, you do that, and all these things. And the Veda says that perhaps you have to work on yourself to get this job. Satyam vada, dharmanchara. These are all means. Follow the path of dharma. Perhaps you should be more upfront. Speak the truth. Don't be neglectful towards your duty. These are known means. And then the end is also known. That if I do this, then I'll become a person fit for the work environment. Before I was irresponsible. I only went to work when I felt like it on the last job, which is why the last job did not last. That's why it's called last job. I only went to work once in a while. This is not responsibility. So the first portion of the Veda also teaches the way to build the self, the relative self, that the transactional self, on the everyday, what I call the self, the ahankara, which is operating the means of knowledge, the body, mind, sense complex with ahankara at the head. So the known means and known ends, unknown means, unknown ends, known means, unknown ends. So many, things, possibilities are there. But still it is a pramana, because you cannot make it rain in the Sahara, all in the month of June. With Agni Nakshatra there, you cannot do that. Which means that it is anadhigatam. So the whole Veda is a pramana, not just one portion of it. Anadhigatam, not available for any other means of knowledge, not available for reasoning, because it works. That's all we know. Certain things work. Because it's its own means of knowledge, independent of other means of knowledges. And then between the means of knowledge and the result, there is a relationship. In the first portion of Veda, there is Chodana and Chodhya. Chodana is Chodaka, Chodana, Chodhya. Chodana means the ritual. Chodaka, the one who is offering or engaging in the ritual. And Chodhya is that which is worthy of engagement all these things. So there is all these relationships, but those relationships are not always evident. So for the person who has graduated the first portion of the Veda, in the sense you can only graduate it in one way. How? When you no longer need it anymore, or when you see the futility of this pramana, not that it is futile, it has become futile because I have outgrown what it can offer. That's why it is futile. It may be useful to someone else, but I have outgrown trying to make rain, trying to play rainmaker, baby maker, whatever it is. It promises wealth maker, wealth generators, wealth cranker, Shri Sukta Homa. And there is Homa for peace of mind, because once you have wealth, you lose peace of mind. So after doing the Homa for wealth, immediately it should be followed by Samvada Sukta Homa, because otherwise what happens is that people start fighting amongst themselves in the family. I want, no, mine, no, I worked for it. Yes, you worked for it, but I'm going to inhale your wealth. There is, peace of mind is lost. Peace of mind goes to pieces. So there is one for that. And then, there is homas. There are homas to get married. And there are homas so that the marriage also just is outgrown. Yeah. So like this, there are all these homas. The homas are a means in themselves. Even though they have relative ends, they collectively, all these fire rituals, etc., they function to graduate and propel the individual on the path of self-growth, to not need them anymore, by seeing their finiteness. And by knowing, after getting a lot of finite things, what do you understand? They are not enough. Oh, so go get some more. All right. A few hundred homas later. Because why? Because the person gets very lax at doing the homas. This is unfortunately true. Because the rigor goes away. Why? Because everything becomes routinized. While picking teeth, you say, okay, get some bricks, arrange them in a square, okay, put some ghee. Oh, phone call. Hello. Mudran karne bhi, hello. Sriniyama deva. Oh, get that. You see this in India also. People are performing. And the people who attend the homas are also talking. This is something very disconcerting to the Western observer. Because, all functions in the West are like a funeral in India. And even in the funeral, people cannot stop talking in India. And everything except death is a rehearsal here. Without rehearsal, and even the rehearsal is all stiff, and everybody gets dressed up and everybody walks in line like, programmed puppets. And then you have to take your seat, and then you have to, you pretend you're getting married, and then you come back, you sit down, and then there is the only thing that is not reproduced is the banquet. They will just serve some, sandwiches or something, because everybody has gathered, and then it's a rehearsal. Only thing they don't rehearse death. This fellow pretends to lie in the coffin. Then everybody, all the mourners, file, Yeah, but the wedding here is such a serious affair. The first wedding I went to after coming to America was very eye-opening. Yeah, and the dancing is also, timed and this. And there's no spontaneity. Everything is so planned. And you have to be very quiet. Nobody should talk. I said, what's wrong with these people? Are they not wanting to get married or what? They're so serious. In India, something is happening there, something else is happening there, and then there is the wedding sometimes has multiple things happening. So there are a couple of priests doing some pre-wedding ritual, but of course the people who are getting married are modern. They don't have time to do the pre and post at the same time. So two of the pandits are doing pre and two others are doing what should come after that simultaneously. And people are talking and the women are doing rangolis and something is happening and somebody is, stringing flowers. Some elderly people are stringing yarns, because this is the first time they are catching up. And they all come to the wedding to catch up with one another. And the Homa is also like a big wedding. There's one going on in Atlanta. It will finish tomorrow, I think. It's called Atirudram. You know the Rudram? When you chant it 11 times in as many days, in 11 days, that is chanting it how many times? 121 times, and we add one more for good measure in case one was thinking wrong. 122 times. Now you multiply that by 100, by 1,000 actually. So what they will do is have 11 fire pits around which there are 122 people each for as many lengths. It's called Atirudram. Ati means extreme Rudram. Yeah. And so the 11 fire pits simultaneously, 122 people at each pit chanting the Rudram 11 times, in as many days, and offering ghee for world peace, they say, and for so many other, reasons, personal and collective reasons. And there the distractions are even so many. Oh my God, all over. Everybody is talking, napping, yapping. From napping to yapping, everything takes place. Why? Even though that may be seen as a bad thing, so much is the faith in the pramana that it will work. It's not about me. It's not at all about me. I can talk, I can yap, I can nap. This is pramana. This is Bhagavan. It will work. Yes? Well, yes and no. It will work. But it says kaya, vachasa, manasa. You have to say, kayena vacha, manasa. You have to say that it should be from my body, my mind, my senses are all engaged. And if they are not engaged, it will not work. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work. Or sometimes it works, but the fruits of the yajna are seized. Yes. And held in abeyance to be dispensed later on in this life, asmin janmani, athava, or janmantare va, or in other lives. And you have no control over it. You cannot tell to Chitragupta running away with a sack of your good karma generated as a result of this yajna, hey, come back, I need a few pieces of that punya right now. No. That you don't get. You are not in charge of the fruits of action. You are only in charge of action. And this is a lesson, the sooner learned, the better. But it takes a long time to learn. That's why the first portion of the Veda is full of all kinds of opportunities to learn this very simple but effective thing in life. But you only have a say over what you do, not the results that it could generate. And that it does generate is not in your hands. You have access to words. You can tell someone, oh, it's a nice day. You have the correct intention behind it. You're just greeting somebody on the road. But it's not a nice day for them, correct? And they unleash back at you and say, very grumpily, oh, what do you mean it's a nice day? It's a horrible day. And, and you're taken aback. This is one example, one small example. You have karmani eva adhikarahate ma phaleshu kadachana, famous sentence from a Gita verse. You only have access to action, not to the results. This takes a long time to understand. That's why the first portion of the Veda has copious amounts of unknown means, unknown ends, these pramanas, and then you're always left wondering, pramana, did it work? Did it not work? When am I going to see the fruits of my action? When? Because every action has immediate and deferred results. The immediate result you may see immediately. That's why it's called immediate. Drishtaphalam. But most of the good stuff gets bundled up and kept in a secret locker for which you do not possess the combination. Yeah. Very bad situation. But what to do? This is how it works. And later on, the secret locker, when you are not looking, will open on its own, as it were, and dispense a few goodies. This is what is called no chance of being in charge of the results of action. And here is where the individual maturity lies. In seeing that, yes, I can operate the pramana called the Veda. I can have Shraddha in the Veda. I can let the pramana operate by doing all the things that are needing to be done. But the results for which I did this ritual are not immediately guaranteed. So therefore, the first portion of the Veda, as it were, is really meant to be a school. Yeah. What does it teach? It doesn't teach patience. It teaches that I have no say over manufacturing what I want. That's what it teaches. It teaches patience only as a avantara phalam, meaning as a side dish result. But the main thing it dishes out is to see that non-connection between this wanting self and manufacturing those results for those desires. How difficult it is to fulfill even one desire. This is the school of yajna, the first portion of the Veda. That's what it teaches. Oh, all those years of yajna, those lifetimes of yajna, and this is what it teaches? Yes. Then why did I have to do them? Don't get outraged. How many yajnas have you done? None. So don't get outraged. Feel good. So I don't have to do them. Great. Wonderful. Then why do they exist? To teach this. I told you. But why so many? I have to go through so many hardships. I'm feeling sorry for this hypothetical person. The Nityagnihotri, the one who is doing Agnihotra every day, Udite, Juhoti, getting up at sunrise and doing all these things, or getting up before the sunrise. How awful! And doing all these things. This Veda is cruel. It may be a means of knowledge. I don't know, but I don't know if it's a means of knowledge or it's just simply mean. Because it's a setup. It makes you do all these things. And then what is the end result? You just understand the connection between you and the desirer, and the production of the fruits of the desire is not in your hands. What a cruel setup. And you call this pramana and you say the holy Veda rubbish. Well, but unfortunately it is what it takes. This is what it takes. Not because of the Veda is flawed, but because the jiva's thinking is flawed. Next time I'll be able to better produce the desire. Not the desire, the fruits of this action. I'm going to fulfill my wish next time. The jiva is a hopeless, helpless, optimistic. Even in its hopelessness, it's hopelessly optimistic. Next time I'll get this. This yajna, one of the bricks was slightly cracked. That's why nothing happened. Next yajna, maybe I talked too much on the cell phone. Next yajna, nobody came because, it was difficult. So I didn't do what was connected with the yajna, annadanam. You're supposed to feed people. So therefore, next time what happened? It rained. Yajna was in Eugene. So it rained on the yajna. Nobody does it indoors. Generally it's outdoors. It rained on the yajna. And so next time. And then next time what happened? I forgot the correct date. Next time. This is how bouncy. It's like those toys you could get in the 70s or 80s. I forget when. But there were these toys I saw some, people playing with. It was like a balloon in the shape of some weird bottle-shaped balloon. Underneath was filled with sand, and it had a little face, and you were supposed to hit that face on the nose, and then it would go back, and then because it had this rounded bottom filled with sand, it would come back right up. And then you crush it, it comes back right up. And make it go, comes back like a jack in the box. The desirer is still alive and hopeful that by some means I will find out what I'm looking for. In the graduation program, the valedictory ceremony of the first portion of the Veda is a very significant celebration in one's life. Only thing is, it is not a collective celebration. If you are hoping that you as a family with all your friends and significant others, brothers, mothers, fathers will graduate together, give it up. Give up that hope, because that's not going to happen. It's a quiet, unceremonial ceremony without any fanfare, no bells, no whistles, where you simply have and find that you have suddenly grown up to see in two ways. You have grown up in three ways actually. You've grown up in three ways. And the first way you have grown up is to become a dharmic person, to never violate what is incorrect, inappropriate, or what is inappropriate for you to do. The second way you have grown up is to understand that you cannot, manufacture a solution to these desires, because the solutions seem to be at best elusive. They shouldn't be called solutions, illusions, delusions. The solutions are best elusive. So you understand that in these elusive solutions, and the solutions are not only elusive, the desires are also elusive. They keep morphing into new viruses. Yeah, each time there is some antibiotic, another one, and then some things need probiotics and some things need antibiotics. Everybody is eating yogurt as though it's going out of style. And this is what it is. This is what everybody is told to do. Have a yogurt farm. Put it in the bathtub, bathe in it, Yeah, you're going back to Cleopatra days. And this is what the whole thing is. So every desire, keeps morphing. The solution also is elusive. The desire itself is elusive. And no matter how many desires I manage to fulfill, I'm still unsatisfied. So maybe the problem is not with the desire. Maybe it's with the desiring person, which is me. So instead of pointing to everything around me, which is based on these 5 pramanas, correct? This pointer. And the pointer points to oneself. That is the U-turn. That is the second thing about this graduation ceremony. The first thing is that I come to a place of acceptance of what is. I see that I don't call all the shots. I come to a place of great reverence and devotion for all the things that makes this universe click. I come to a place of acceptance of what is, because I know that there are things I cannot change. And the more I grow, I know that there are more and more things I cannot change. This is a person of dharma. Second, I see the futility of these desires, because they are really all the time like chameleons, changing colors, changing form. morphing into new and weird things. And I recognize that I have been a slave to these desires. And what has come out of years of slavery? Nothing but sorrow. So what has this contact of the sense organs and the sense objects led me to? A place of unending sorrow. Ye hi samsparshaja bhogaha dughayonayah evate adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramante buddhaha. This is what the Gita advises. Ye means these. Bhogaha, objects. Objects of enjoyment. Samsparshajaha. Samsparshanat jayante iti samsparshajaha. Born of contact with the sense organs. Dukkhayonayaha evate. They are the cause of sorrow. Why are they the cause of sorrow? Just because the sense objects and the sense organs, they contact each other, so immediately one weeps? Yes, if not immediately, in time one recognizes oneself as a weeper, enslaved by these desirable things or desires, objects of desires, or even the desires themselves. Why? The answer is given in the next line. Adyavantaha antavantaha te. Adyavantaha means what? Adyavan, adyavantau, adyavantaha, adyavan. One means what?
The one.
The one who has. Okay. Van. Adyavan. The one who has adya. Adya means what? Start. Beginning. Adyavan, plural, adyavantaha. The one who has beginning. And then plural, they who have beginnings. Antavan means what? They who have ends. Antavantaha, they who have ends. Adyavantaha, antavantaha te. And you together you just make one, declination. Adyantavantaha. Adi plus anta, adyanta, and then you add the suffix there. Adyantavantaha. They are all finite. That which has a beginning and an end means what? They are finite. And furthermore, buddhaha, those who know, those who have already graduated the first portion of the Veda, nateshu ramante kadapi. At any times they don't revel in them. Yeah. You can enjoy something because it has come to you. Nothing wrong. You can enjoy without addiction. You can own without possessing. That's the beauty of it. And that's what the present of this valedictory present of the first portion of the Veda gives, is this discernment, viveka. That I'm not going to indulge in these things because I'm going to be enslaved by certain things. And you can't off the bat say what those things are because they are different. Each person has their own private pitfall. For one person it may be fine to see movies. They don't care if they see it or don't see it. If it's there, they'll enjoy it. And if it's boring, they'll get up and leave. They'll not say, I have paid for the ticket, I have paid for the popcorn, I have paid for the extra butter on the popcorn. I am going to sit here and be tormented by this movie. They'll just walk away. But for some other person, without movie, there is no breakfast. Without movie, there is no lunch. So you cannot tell everybody stay away from movies. For one person you have to say stay away from movie. For the other person you have to say you can go to the movie but don't touch that popcorn. Stay away from popcorn. This is the thing. This is the interesting thing. That's why you cannot off the bat say these are the pitfalls. You can say some general pitfalls, but you have to see, each one has to see where is that enslavement. And coming out of the enslavement, requires first the second thing, which is the graduation present of the first portion of the Veda. What is that? The discernment to know that this is a pitfall, and what I am after is the finite, but what I seem to want is something infinite which cannot be manufactured. This is the first present. Graduation present after doing all those yajnas you thought were a waste. There is also one more graduation present, which is the courage to give up the pursuits of trying to tie the means and ends together in a nice bow. Desire, objects of desire, and the effort put in to gain those objects tied in a nice little gift-wrapped bow. I desist from that. I go back to square one. And then what? Re-strategize. If the problem is not with the desires, which seem to endlessly morph, then where is the problem? With the individual who desires, which is ahameva, myself. So the problem is centered on myself. And so the solution cannot be centered on the Jagat. Like the grandma needle story. You have to look for the solution where the problem is. You have to look for the embroidery thread and needle where they were lost. Not in the village square because it happens to be a well-lit place. That is where. If the problem is centered on I as the desirer, the solution is centered on this I. Meaning, what is the nature of this desirer? These are the three graduation presents. Dharma, and then what? Viveka, discernment. What is the third graduation present? Vairagya. This Vairagya means dispassion towards objects of enjoyment in the here and the hereafter. And you will hear more about this in the Tattva Bodha. And so dispassion means what? Seeing it objectively. Yes, I can work towards this. Yes, I may even get it. And having got it, is it a solution to this sad fellow, this sad, mad mind? No. It's not even the mind. Mind is just a sad place of expression of that sadness. Sadly misunderstood. Centered on the I, this ahankara itself. And so that is where I have to look for the solution. So I have to re-strategize. It's like when you sit in a car that is endowed with GPS. What happens? You go on the wrong way. It says recalculating. When it is safe, please make a U-turn. Recalculating. This is what the jiva has to do. Blessed by GPS, God protection system, which keeps one because of you wondered what happened to all those punyas that were not coming out. This is where they are used, is to propel you to the second portion of the Veda. That is why don't think that the punyas are, Bhagavan is keep holding. No, can't have any. I'll decide, not now. No, this is where the punya fructifies in helping you graduate from this sad, sick state of affairs. This is where the punya has fructified. If you find yourself here today and this is that punya. So many lifetimes, not even if you say I have not touched even one fire stick this time, where is this punya coming from? From many lifetimes. Yeah. And then maybe the punya can drag you to the Vedanta class. But then you may feel like getting up and go away. What is being taught? Oh my God, let me run out of here. And people do that. No offense. But what happens is that I'm just telling you this. If you're sitting here day after day after day, and then the classes are increasing, that's not about the teacher, because the teacher has no pressure to teach. That is because of your punya. That the teacher decided to even teach, and it's not even a decision. It just happened. It's just happened. Who knew that there would be all these classes? Nobody knew. But perhaps unbeknownst to everyone, except Bhagavan, that people were praying, oh, we want a few more classes. That's why I said, be careful what you ask for. We have an expression when God gives after, caving the roof. This is what it is. So this is all punya. Don't say where the punya went. Oh, but wouldn't it have been nice if it had come in the form of ice cream? Yeah, well, this is the best ice cream. Why? Because after listening to the second portion of the Veda, I don't scream anymore. That is the best kind of solution to ice cream. No more screaming. This is what it is. So these are the 3 graduation gift-wrapped presents that help one to see why the second portion of the Veda is needed and why it is needed and what that has to offer. We will see when? After the break. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. You come back in.